this up into two, but the first, like, I'll introduce it as like one versus the other, but we'll focus this one episode on empathy, and then when we record a second time, introduce it again as empathy versus compassion, but we'll focus on compassion this time.
That's very good of you. I can see how excited that you are to do this.
I just want to be clear that we're on the same page.
I know.
So we don't like go back and forth.
I was just
Wait a minute.
I was just sympathizing with
You're
you.
You're fusing them together. You're losing yourself.
What's going on?
Eject.
Boop, boop.
All right, shall we?
Do we test the little thing? Are we good at the sound?
We should.
With our luck, we would do it. This would be the first time.
Yeah, right.
No sound.
No sound.
No sound.
No though. I don't make the number guy protect the building and fire.
What are you talking about?
Sound. No sound.
No sound.
No though. I don't make the number guy protect the building and fire.
What are you talking about? That is so.
It's like my favorite.
He never.
To 20 minutes if we can.
20,
like we'll end at 20 because then all the other stuff will add it and it'll make it 22, just because of time. I think we should be good.
Yeah, I gotta do something. I gotta meet Marcia.
Poop. Oh, okay.
At 10:30.
Okay.
And I was sitting there realizing, like, I didn't actually totally. I just figured we were gonna do one and be out.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, we can do it.
Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to the Shrink Think podcast. We are excited to be here with you. We're excited you are here with us.
We don't have any other emotions.
We are excited we are together. We want to talk about something, this is actually kind of interesting. I was talking with one of my clinicians about this, and he mentioned the difference between empathy and compassion. These are words that I know pretty well, right? Like I could probably describe to you what is empathy, what is compassion. But he said they're different, they function differently, and one, like in certain contexts, and especially as a clinician, one might be better than the other, or one might lead to more burnout. And I was like, what? Like, this is an interesting topic. So I started kind of researching this stuff, engaging ChatGPT, one of my favorite new AI tools,
Yes.
to like gather some web data on this and put it into like a grid, like in terms of therapeutic use of each one. It was really fascinating. So I decided that we're going to talk about this in 2 episodes. So we're going to break this down so that we can flesh out in some detail what is empathy versus compassion, and what is compassion versus empathy. And we're talking about this kind of in the context of a therapeutic relationship, or I should say a therapeutic context. But if you're a listener and you're a client, you're not a therapist, then this will also, I think, be helpful to you, because if you are a friend or in a mentor, discipleship, support role of somebody else, I think this will still have some bearing on your life, because it might actually help you know how to engage somebody else in a more sustainable, grounded way. And it's not that one is necessarily bad and the other is good. And especially for you therapists out there, we want to put this together so that you can hear this and maybe make some adjustments as you notice these things resonate, so that you can be better attuned and supportive of people and your clients and stay in the field longer and not get burnt out.
You know, as you were talking, I was thinking about a lot. Brene Brown does stuff with sympathy and empathy. Sympathy, which is probably closer to compassion, is it can be like a pity for people, like, oh, you poor dear, like the whole South thing, bless your heart.
Right.
You just got shot. We're obviously focused on compassion and empathy, but I guess I decided to say that out loud because I thought some of you might be actually kind of trying to like hone that in, because it's just more of a common word, usually put up against empathy a bit more often. So if you consider empathy, what that is like feeling with someone, right? You're more with them. You are connected with them. There's in a lot of ways less thought.
Yeah.
which it's just like you're not thinking about like all of the stuff that's around in the moment. What you're doing is you and you may find yourself noticing that you can feel what they're feeling, like, and then you might find yourself questioning, like, oh, is that okay? Like, if you're a therapist, like, how far do I go? Like, oh no, I'm being swept in. I need to put my brakes on. But meanwhile, you're like still crying, or or whatever, which happens, by the way.
It's true. And the sympathy versus empathy thing, it's funny. I've told this to a couple of people, and that's the common thing that people bring up is the Brene Brown thing. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think it is right down the right track. And you're right, when you talk about empathy, feeling with, it's kind of like this automatic, intuitive, and it's like getting swept away. If you think about, being at the beach somewhere and the water can come and just sweep you off your feet all of a sudden, you didn't even realize it. It didn't seem like it was that threatening or that dangerous, but whoosh, you're taken. In many ways, empathy can be like that. And there's a whole word for, or a world for people who are like this, empaths, right? And it's this idea that it's like we just walk around and we can feel people. It's like I'm walking down the street in a busy New York street corner and I bump into somebody and, oh my gosh, you're grieving, aren't you? Who hurt you?
And the person's like, go away.
Right. And it's not that the person who's feeling something gets upset necessarily when you empathize with them, like, go away, right? For the person who's being empathized with, that can actually feel really good because, and you said this, hearkening back to our interview with Pavel, you said when you are with somebody and you're just with their emotions and understanding what they're going through, it's like you're solving their alone problem. So when you're empathizing with somebody and feeling what they're feeling, you're feeling it with them, and that makes them feel like they're not alone in that feeling.
So that gets to this idea with empathy that it is a shared experience, right? So, which means it actually has a unique nature to it. So it's you're tuning in to the person's stuff that they're sharing, and as you do that, you're feeling it a little. You're feeling it, and as you're feeling it, there's a shared feeling that's going on with the client in this case, who's feeling that connection. And now, as Aaron just said, they don't feel alone, but they also might realize in that feeling moment that they actually did feel alone prior to that. It's one of those things where it puts aliveness, so to speak, to that moment, where it can draw the client into realizing some stuff about the feeling that they were having, because they might not have understood it, because you are coming from your own perspective, and also, as we talked about in other episodes, your own pain that you've been through in your life, especially if you've had something that is very similar. This is I don't know how much we want to get into this, Aaron, but there is danger points.
Absolutely.
right at that moment.
Yeah, and you're alluding to it right there. So let's open that up, because the potential risk for empathy is it can activate your own stuff, because in a certain sense, when you're feeling with somebody, you might sort of lose yourself in their feeling. You lose connection maybe with your own grounded self, and it can activate some of your own distress. And in fact, the neurobiology of this is that it activates the anterior insula and cingulate cortex, which is your distress part of your brain. And that makes a lot of sense, because when you're feeling with somebody and you like lose your perspective or lose your groundedness in I'm okay, right? Then you are with them and all of a sudden you're feeling their distress and your brain is like danger, danger, danger. And the other risk is that if it's not that, it can activate some of your own stuff, which is kind of like potential vicarious trauma.
So the insula is also the part of our brain that, like, if I were to tell you right now, like, hey, can you feel your shoes with your feet? And you would be like, well, now that I think about it, I guess I can. And before that, you didn't, because you didn't have a rock in there, right? So the reason I say that is because when you think about the anterior side, what's happening is the person is they're taking in the world tangibly with the insula, But now what happens is they're now, with the feelings they have, moving toward, and in some ways a little out of their body, which is kind of weird if you think about it, which is where you lose the grounding, right? Because you are literally like, your emotions are like floating in space, you know? And if you are not mindful enough, like, about what's going on, which is why honestly, most grad schools just, there's all kinds of work that you do on trying to understand your family of origin, because then by the time you get out, you kind of know, like, oh, okay, I probably feel this way because of XYZ, and they also force you into therapy, different things. But that's a lot of why, because you can't make that scenario about you, knowingly or unknowingly. You know, we talked about countertransference. That's all of that. That's one thing that, well, more than one, I guess, that Freud brought to the table that's stood the test of time. So when you are having that emotion in the moment, the other side of the coin is if the person isn't really totally there and they jump out and disconnect from you, right? So you feel it, you move into it, and then they're like, oh, it's fine. Then they move back into their head because they're not comfortable yet to actually, I mean, it probably shocks them, you know, that kind of a thing. They get in, I've had that happen many times where they'll, it's almost like they change their mind, you know, like, let's talk about something else.
Now that I see how you're feeling with it and it's causing you distress, never mind.
I don't need that distress. Like, that's why I wasn't thinking about
Right.
it. I literally didn't do this for this reason.
This is why I haven't come to therapy before.
This needs to not matter.
Yeah.
So, but it helps to move people down the road, feel cared for. There's a lot of rapport in that. But, and I'll say this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Aaron. This is also why we talked about in doing intakes clinically, when you pull somebody in, you actually don't empathize with them. You want to just stay, keep it in the head, because you're asking, you need the information, and that's it. And it's weird when you just meet a person for the first time, and then you're like, oh my gosh, that must have been so hard for you, or whatever, which is actually more compassion. But in that moment, you know, the person's looking at it, they're like, okay, this is going to get weird now. I think maybe I'm going to find another therapist. This isn't a quote-unquote good fit.
Yeah, so you're saying something, and we can certainly connect it to the intake, but here's an example. I've heard this from people all the time, and it's kind of a danger as a therapist with another person. But again, if you're just like a layperson, you're just hanging out with friends or whatever, this is a danger as well. But on the other side of that, this is, when you do it well, it's something that makes therapy can find that line and avoid crossing it into their own personal distress. And here's what I mean. There's an example of somebody's telling you their story, and let's say that it's like a grief story, a loss story. Maybe there's a little bit of complexity to it, like somebody was like in a car accident, and somebody had been drinking, or there was, you know, something like that going on. And if you've got something like that in your own past, your own history, or you've got some connection to it that activates some emotion inside of you, then when you hear a client talking about this and they're mentioning, oh yeah, and so was driving drunk or whatever, if you're feeling with and kind of losing yourself in the way that Nathan was talking about, then you might actually lose the grounding of like objectivity, and you might slip into what somebody was like, oh, people never should do that, you know, like did they prosecute this person, like, oh, you need to go after them, you know, because now it's like, this is no longer about the client and their grief or their pain or whatever they're going through. It can activate my own sense of like defensiveness, protectiveness, anger, you know, whatever, frustration about my own situation that's very similar, right? Because I'm feeling with you, and I'm fused with you, I'm blended with you. So it's like I can't even really tell the difference between our situations, and I'm kind of thinking immaturely, really. It's an immature kind of a reaction, a lack of awareness kind of a reaction, to think that you're going through the same exact thing that I'm going through, feeling the same things as me.
Yeah, and as a side note, the immature that word gets said. And it's not about that. It's about just the idea that you haven't grown through that yet.
Right.
It's just short of the growth. But if
now you need to.
like, it actually needs to happen.
Right.
You have to be intentional, and you get in that problem solving mode. That's not even. It's not about them. It's about you, and it's confusing everyone, which is why it's really dangerous, actually, in therapy.
Yeah. So when you lose yourself like that, part of what we're saying is like it can kind of lead to this vicarious trauma, or it can like activate you in ways that you really shouldn't be activated, especially as a therapist. You need to be able to stay regulated and stay calm. And here's how it connects with burnout, because if you're session after session, or even like, multiple times throughout the day or the week, fused with somebody, you're emotionally resonating with them a lot, it's draining your battery, right? It's not, yes, there's a component of being a therapist where we're giving to people and we feel like exhausted or we feel drained because we've given, but it's just kind of like working a full day. Like, you are tired at the end of it, and if you get a little bit of rest, you can recover and be fine. Well, for therapists that are feeling with and maybe losing themselves and getting distressed all the time, they're not recovering, right? It's like activating or stressing their system more than it should. And then the next day or the next week, they're not rebounding and recovering. And so they might actually, be on a downward slope of, energy drain over time, which is exactly what burnout is.
Yeah, so if you think inside your head, like the idea of the what is that movie called, Inside Out or whatever? So you've got all these little emotional balls that you've been sharing back and forth, right? You have your own emotional balls, and then these other ones show up, and then you got these little dudes back there, like they're like, oh, this is this one, okay, this goes with this one, this goes with this one, this goes with this one, and they, they're doing this all week long, right? And then towards the end, it's like, wait, this, yeah, I don't care where it goes, just throw it over there, just throw it in the general direction. It's probably in that pile. At some point, that stuff has to get sorted, and it has to, and unfortunately or fortunately or however you want to look at it, it requires intention and time. I mean, the time thing, man, holy mackerel. Trying to intentionally afford yourself that time can be really difficult because it feels like you're letting something else go. But this is why, like, you actually, it's just going to have to be part of your job. Organize your emotions to remind yourself what's not yours. You care about your clients. The attunement, this is empathy is all about attunement, right? So you're attuning, and that's a lot of energy that you're spending all week long. And speaking of attunement, I was thinking of the new movie that just came out, Happy Gilmore 2. They bring back all the characters from the other one, and then there's that one, the one guy that worked in the hospital with his mom in Happy Gilmore 1, and he does fake empathy about everything, which is why I was thinking, like, this is kind of perfect. Oh, aren't you having a bad day? Come with me. And then as soon as the isolation of the person happens, like, you're in my world, Grandma, like that type of thing. Anyway, yeah, we're talking about not doing that, but you can fake it, I guess, is my point. And probably means that you're burned out, by the way, if you're starting to kind of just state the emotion and move on.
Yeah, so all this to say, empathy has these risks, but it's still a good thing, right? Like, attuning with somebody, being with somebody in what they're feeling is good, but I guess what we're trying to say is don't stay there. Because as a therapist, it's really important that we help people move through those emotions. And if you're getting swept away, if you're attuning and getting swept away in that emotion with somebody, then you're losing some of your perspective that the client might need in order to move through it or in order to see things differently. You're losing some of your own sense of agency, some of your own grounding. But when you can attune briefly and validate what the person's feeling and help the person to feel felt and feel understood and cared about in that situation, you can then also move out of that and help them move forward. So empathy is great as a tool, but it's really like you don't always want to have your hammer out all the time. Like, you're looking for something to hammer, right? It's like, it's great when you're on the job site and there are things that you need to hammer, but you need to put it away and use some other tools sometimes too.
Yeah, the vehicle of empathy itself just the connection can sometimes unlock forward movement that the person didn't even realize that was possible. Because when another human being actually emotionally gets it, what happens is the person feels they do feel cared for, but they more feel seen. Then they feel not crazy. They feel like, oh, this is I'm somehow normal. I'm somehow still okay. And at that point, as a therapist, you are like this anchor that you're helping the person to move forward with. Like you can, but you got to change. You got to move into that. That's where your intention comes down to move into it.
It's like also an anchor, and it's also like a compass where it's like you maintain the perspective of here's where we need to go, and rather than just swimming around in this feeling, which is why some people come to therapy or some people out in the world might get stuck in these feelings, is because they don't necessarily know how to move through it, or it's so overwhelming they drown in it and they get stuck in it. And the last thing that they need is for you to be in it and for them to pull you into it, and now you're both stuck, right? You're both now in the water splashing around. Help, help.
Holler out to my Enneagram 2s and 4s, baby.
Right. And you're like, I feel how drowning. This is for you. Like, great.
Why aren't we anywhere?
We need somebody to like maintain, shore status and feet on the ground and, access to a boat and all those things. So it's got a great value, but use it well. Use it briefly, I guess. Use it intentionally, but also move out of it when you can.
And when you understand that those things are like that, you are connected probably more than you feel like you should be. Take some time with yourself and try to understand that. Maybe that's when you get a therapist.
Next time, we're going to focus on the difference between compassion and empathy. So if you're listening to this, stay tuned. We've got another episode that's coming out that's kind of focusing on, if you will, the other side of this coin, or a different tool that you can use that's called compassion. And we'll break down, just like with empathy, what it is, how to use it, and some of the benefits and potential risks of it.
Have a great day.
Sweet.
Not bad at all.
I always appreciate that you remember all those details about the brain, and like I know some of it, but you were like, you're there, and I'm like, people need that. That was awesome. I love that.
Yeah, hopefully it's right.
I know. Glad it's you, not me. I don't know. I don't even try. That's hilarious. I just made all that stuff up. The insula, you chop it up and put it in your salad. What?
It's like an almond. No, that's the amygdala. What is going on?
Right.
But it's not hard. It could be.
Oh man, I don't even know what episode we're on. 243. Man, 2025. Crazy. All right.
I would have put the burnout thing more in compassion.
No, it makes sense with the empathy, because you're staying in it versus moving through it, right? And you're maintaining a sense of action. That's why you don't burn out.
But with compassion, you're doing the same thing. Do we need to restart it for the next one?
Oh yeah. Should we cut here and okay? Sorry everybody. Stay tuned.